The moment I walked into the Velvet Anchor, I knew I was already guilty. The hostess gave me a pitying smile. My family's table was visible from the entrance, and every head turned as I hurried over. My chair scraped loudly on the polished floor. "You're late," my mother, Linda, announced, her voice slicing through the quiet clatter of silverware. "Again." I muttered an apology, sliding into the empty seat. The appetizers were half finished. "Honestly, Marilyn," she continued, not bothering to lower her voice. "You're always a disruption. Maybe it's better if you just stop coming to these things." She took a deliberate sip of wine. "You're too much trouble to invite again." A hot wave of shame washed over me. My sister, Ava, looked down at her plate. My husband, Mark, was silent. Before I could speak, a man in a sharp suit approached our table. He was the manager. He looked directly at me, his expression curious. "Excuse me," he said, polite but firm. "Ma'am, are you Marilyn Carson?" All conversation at our table died. Linda's fork hovered in midair. "Yes, that's me," I managed to say, my heart pounding. The manager's stern face softened into a warm smile. "Ms. Carson, could I have a quick word with you privately?" He gestured away from the table. Confused, I followed him a few steps to a quiet corner near the polished bar. "I'm Leo," he said, extending a hand. "We ordered a large batch of your maple pecan scones and lemon lavender shortbread for our neighborhood fundraiser last month." I blinked, stunned. My small bakery, the Rising Bun, had catered that. "They were exceptional," Leo continued. "Our guests haven't stopped asking about them. I've been meaning to call. Would you be open to discussing a regular supply arrangement for our weekend brunch service?" I was speechless. Then, I heard Linda's voice, sharp and carrying. "Is there a problem, Marilyn?" Leo glanced over at Linda, then back at me, his professional mask slipping for a second to reveal confusion. "No problem at all," I said quickly, my voice surprisingly steady. "I'd love to discuss it. Here's my card." I fumbled one out of my wallet. Leo took it with a nod. "I'll call you tomorrow." I returned to the table under a cloud of heavy silence. The rest of the dinner was a blur of strained small talk. Linda's disapproval was a physical force. No one mentioned the manager. An hour later, Mark and I were in the car. The silence was thick. Finally, he sighed, gripping the wheel. "You know how your mom gets. You shouldn't provoke her." I stared at him. Provoke her? By being 5 minutes late? He didn't answer, just shook his head. A cold realization settled in my stomach. He wasn't surprised by her cruelty. He expected it. And he was okay with it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Mark's words replayed in my head. I thought of all the other times. Birthdays where my gifts were critiqued, holidays where my cooking was interesting, childhood achievements met with a lukewarm "that's nice." Linda's favorite tool was public humiliation, and Mark had always been a silent bystander. I had mistaken his silence for support of me, but now I saw it for what it was, compliance with her. The pattern was so clear it hurt. I got up for water and saw Mark's phone lighting up on the kitchen counter. A notification preview glowed on the screen. It was from Linda. The first few words made my blood run cold. "Did she say anything in the car?" "I told you she'd make a scene." My hand trembled as I picked up the phone. His password was still our anniversary, a habit born of laziness, not sentiment. I opened the messages. The thread with Linda was long. My vision blurred as I read. "She's so unstable about that bakery. You need to manage her expectations, Mark. All that flour and sugar, it's a cute hobby, but she needs to be realistic." And his replies were worse. "I know. I'll talk to her. It's just a phase." Not once had he defended me. Not once had he said, "She's talented," or "leave her alone." He was her informant. A new message popped up as I held the phone, timestamped just minutes ago. Gossiping with the manager for attention. So desperate. I placed the phone back exactly as it was. The last piece of my naivety shattered. I didn't cry. A strange calm descended. I dressed quietly, wrote a note saying needed air, and drove through the empty streets. My destination was the only place that ever felt truly mine, the Rising Bun. The bakery was dark and still, smelling of yeast and sugar. I flicked on the lights. That's when I saw it, a crisp white envelope that had been slipped under the door. It was addressed to me. I opened it. It was from the Lakeview Business Collective, a group of local entrepreneurs. The letter praised the exquisite quality of the pastries served at the Velvet Anchor's fundraiser and invited me to a meeting to discuss a potential partnership. A real, tangible opportunity had found me in my darkest hour. The meeting was held in a bright, modern co-working space. 3 people sat across from me: Sophia, from a boutique hotel, Ben, who ran a gourmet grocery chain, and Clara, the collective's director. They had sampled my work and were impressed. "We're launching a curated local artisans program," Clara explained. "We want a signature line for our members. But we need more than a supplier, we need a consultant to help develop the product line itself." They outlined an offer, a retainer, a development budget, and my name on the products. It was a creative dream with financial stability. "The condition," Sophia said gently, "is that you demonstrate full, independent operational control. We need a reliable partner." I left with a provisional agreement, my head spinning. For the first time I had leverage. I returned home as the sun was setting. Mark was in the living room. "Where were you?" he asked, more annoyed than concerned. Before I could answer, his phone rang on speaker. Linda's voice filled the room. "Is she there? Did she finally come to her senses?" I walked into the room and looked at the phone. "I'm here, Mom." A brief, stunned silence. "Well," Linda huffed. "I expect an apology for your little performance last night." I felt a new strength, forged in the quiet of my bakery and the respect of that meeting. "You'll get an apology," I said calmly, "when I owe you one." The line went dead. Mark stared at me, shocked. That night, I began quietly gathering documents, bakery leases, bank statements, the business registration I'd filed alone. A week later, a notice from my landlord arrived. It was a standard reminder that my bakery lease was up for renewal in 3 months. Something made me call him. "Mr. Dolan," I said, "just checking you got my intent to renew form." He sounded confused. "I did, Marilyn, but didn't your mother say you were planning to vacate? She called last week asking about the space for a friend's boutique." The floor seemed to tilt. Linda wasn't just criticizing, she was actively sabotaging. She wanted my space, my dream, erased before I could even succeed. I assured Mr. Dolan I was absolutely staying. I didn't confront Linda. Instead, I called a lawyer to review my lease terms. The game had changed. Leo from the Velvet Anchor called, true to his word. "Can you come in for a tasting next Tuesday? We want to compare your pastries side by side with our current supplier." Tuesday arrived. In their spotless kitchen, I laid out my scones, shortbread, and a new honey rosemary brioche. The executive chef and Leo tasted, discussed, and tasted again. The decision was unanimous. My pastries were fresher, more nuanced, and used higher quality ingredients. Leo smiled. "We'd like to meet the owner to discuss a contract." I took a deep breath, the words feeling powerful on my tongue. That's me. I'm the owner. News, especially in the small world of local business, travels fast. A few days later, Linda called. Her voice was sickly sweet, a tone she used when she wanted something. "Marilyn, darling, I heard a little rumor. Is the Velvet Anchor really switching to your things?" I confirmed it. The sweetness evaporated, replaced by a flustered panic she quickly tried to mask. "Well, that's something. We should celebrate. Come to Sunday dinner. Just family." It was a transparent attempt to reel me back in, to regain control over the narrative. I knew it was a trap. But I also saw her fear. "Sure, Mom," I said. "I'll be there." I accepted, with a plan to observe, not to participate. Sunday dinner was a performance. Linda cooed over me, serving my favorite dish. She asked about the bakery with fake interest. Then, as she passed the potatoes, she said, "And that consulting offer from the business collective must be so exciting. A retainer." Mark said it was quite impressive. I froze. Mark shifted uncomfortably. I had only received the formal offer that morning. I hadn't told Mark the details yet. The only way Linda could know the word retainer was if Mark had shared my private emails with her. The last thread of trust between my husband and me snapped silently. I finished the meal, my mind clear and cold. The enemy wasn't just at the head of the table. The formal contract from the Lakeview Business Collective arrived. It was even better than discussed. A generous monthly retainer for product development consulting, a royalty on sales, and full creative control. They wanted my name and my palette. It was validation in black and white. I could scale back the bakery's daily grind if I wanted, or use the capital to expand it. For the first time, my future had options that were mine alone. I signed the document with a steady hand. I didn't show Mark. This success was my secret, my armor. I began planning not just a business move, but a life announcement. Mark sensed the shift. My quietness wasn't the defeated silence he was used to, it was the silence of strategy. He became oddly attentive, bringing me coffee, offering to help at the bakery, things he'd never done before. One afternoon, I came back from the supplier to find him tidying my office, his eyes darting over the papers on my desk. He'd seen the collective's contract. That night, he suggested a romantic weekend away. I looked at him, this man who had shared my vulnerabilities with my bully. "I think we need counseling," I said plainly. His face fell, then hardened. "Counseling? Don't be dramatic, Marilyn. We're fine." His refusal was the final confirmation I needed. Mr. Dolan, my landlord, called again, sounding embarrassed. "Marilyn, your mother called me. Again. She insisted you're moving out soon and are unstable with finances. She urged me to not renew your lease." He paused. "I've known you for 5 years. You've never been late." I told her my decision was between me and my tenant. I thanked him, my anger a cold, solid thing. Linda was trying to make me homeless before I could fly. That day, I met with Mr. Dolan and signed a new, 5-year lease with an option to expand into the vacant unit next door. I secured my foundation while she was busy plotting to destroy it. My first official delivery to the Velvet Anchor's weekend brunch was a triumph. Leo called me 2 days later, excited. The pastries sold out by 10 a.m. both days. "We've had more compliments on the menu than ever. You're a hit, Marilyn." Meanwhile, I finalized everything with the business collective. The press release was drafted, announcing their new artisan in residence. I was flooded with a sense of fierce, personal victory. My work was speaking for me, louder than Linda's criticisms ever could. Then, Leo called with another invitation. "We're having a small launch dinner next Friday to celebrate our new spring menu. We'd be honored if you, as our new partner, would attend as our special guest." I arrived at the Velvet Anchor that Friday night wearing a simple, elegant dress I'd bought for myself. The private dining room was softly lit, filled with about 30 people, local food writers, loyal customers, and friends of the restaurant. My breath caught when I saw them. At a table near the back, sat Linda, Mark, and Ava. They looked confused and out of place. They were invited as top patrons, completely unaware of the evening's true purpose. Linda saw me and her eyes narrowed in suspicion. Mark offered a weak, nervous wave. I gave a small, polite nod and found my seat at Leo's table at the front. The air crackled with a tension only we could feel. After dessert was served, Leo stood and tapped his glass. The room quieted. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate a new chapter for the Velvet Anchor. Our spring menu isn't just about new dishes, it's about a new philosophy, partnering with exceptional local talent. He gestured toward me. I saw Linda sit up straight. Many of you have raved about our new pastries. Tonight, we officially celebrate our culinary partnership with the artist behind them. Marilyn Carson. Warm applause filled the room. All heads turned to me. I saw Linda's face turn ashen. Mark looked stunned. Leo smiled. Marilyn, would you like to say a few words? I stood, my legs steady. I walked to the podium, my heart pounding not with fear, but with purpose. I looked at the kind, expectant faces, then let my gaze briefly touch my family's table. Thank you, Leo. This partnership is more than a business deal to me. It's a testament to the idea that perseverance matters. That quiet dedication, even when others dismiss it as a hobby or too much trouble, can build something real. I spoke about the value of local ingredients and community. I never said my mother's name. I didn't need to. For a long time, I let others define my limits. No more. This is for anyone who's been told they're not enough. Keep baking. Keep building. The applause was heartfelt and sustained. After the speeches, Linda cornered me near the restrooms. Her composure was gone. How dare you humiliate us like that, she seethed. You made me look like a fool. You owe this family, you owe me, some credit. Mark appeared behind her, his face grim. Marilyn, you embarrassed your mother. Apologize. I looked between them, the united front they'd always been. The last flicker of hope for my marriage died. I don't owe you credit for my work, I said, my voice low and clear. And I'm done being treated like a problem you need to manage. I walked away, leaving them standing in the hallway. I didn't go home that night. I went to a quiet hotel. In the morning, I texted Mark I needed space and would be staying with a friend. He called repeatedly, his messages shifting from anger to pleading. After a week, I met with a lawyer, not to file for divorce, but to understand my position. The review was illuminating. My bakery income, though modest, had been consistent. My new consulting retainer was significant. Mark's commissions had been sporadic for years. I had been the stable financial foundation, while he and Linda had painted me as a financial burden. The truth was both liberating and devastating. Meanwhile, Linda's world began to fray. The boutique owner who was her friend, a woman named Gloria, called me. Marilyn, I'm so sorry. Linda assured me you were closing shop. She made it sound like a done deal. I would never have considered pushing you out. Gloria was mortified and withdrew from Linda's plan. Word of Linda's underhanded attempt spread through their social circle. Invitations dried up. Her perfect image had a crack. She started calling me, her tone desperate. People are misunderstanding, Marilyn. You need to tell them it was all a mistake. Fix this. The bully was begging. I agreed to meet Linda at a neutral cafe. She looked older, strained. Just tell Gloria it was a miscommunication, she demanded, but her eyes were pleading. I stirred my tea. I will, I said calmly. After you apologize. Not to me in private. To me, and to Ava, and to Mark, for the years of manipulation and cruelty. A real, honest apology. She recoiled as if struck. I am your mother, she hissed. I stood to leave. Then act like one. 2 days later, she called, her voice hollow. She agreed. She gave the apology at a strained family lunch. It was stiff and insufficient, but it was an admission of defeat. Mark watched, his face a mask of shame. Mark asked for a proper talk. He apologized, said he was wrong, that he was afraid of Linda too. He asked for another chance. I listened. The woman who would have clung to that apology a few months ago was gone. In her place was someone who valued peace. I believe you're sorry, I said. But sorry doesn't rebuild trust. I need separation. I need to know what peace and respect feel like on my own. I moved into a small apartment. The very next week, using the security from my consulting contract, I signed the papers to expand the Rising Bun into the unit next door. 6 months later, the Rising Bun's new event space was packed for a baking workshop. The business was thriving, the consulting work fulfilling. I felt a calm confidence I'd never known. After the workshop, Leo, who had become a genuine friend, approached. The workshop was a smash. Would you ever consider doing a regular series? People don't just want your pastries, they admire what you've built. I was about to answer when I saw them. Linda and Mark stood near the door, not interrupting, just watching. They looked like spectators, not directors. There was no anger left in me, only pity and a distant peace. I turned back to Leo with a genuine smile. I'd love to. Later, cleaning up, I realized the old hurt was just a scar. I wasn't too much trouble. I was just too much for the wrong people.